Brian, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you back on the show, as always.
Thank you.
You have said that travel recovery has become the travel revolution. In a nutshell, what are the trends and stats you're seeing to back this idea that travel will never be the same?
Well, the reason travel's not going back to the way it was is because the world's not going back to the way it was. We used to live in one place, work in another, and travel to a third place. Now, all those places are one place, and that place can be wherever we want. And so people are flexible. They can travel, many people, anytime, go anywhere, and many people can also live in many more locations. So flexibility is just totally changing the game for travel.
Now, let's talk about the short term first. Take me out 1 year. Over the next year, what trends are you expecting in leisure and business travel?
Well, number one, there's going to be a huge shift from business travel to leisure travel. Business travel is not coming back in a big way in the next year because technology has replaced a lot of the need for business travel. But the more people are at home, the more they want to travel. But they're going to go everywhere. They're going to travel to like kind of cities, small towns, and rural communities. Now, hopefully next year, cross-border will recover. Once cross-border recovers, you're going to see a whole bunch of people not just traveling abroad, but even living abroad. And I also think summers are going to be more and more frequently times people go away and work remotely.
Let's go out a couple of years. You have repeatedly said that travel will never be the same. I've spoken to the CEO of Expedia who says travel is going to go back to the way it was, even business travel. Why am I getting such different opinions?
Well, the world's not going back to the way it was in 2019 any more than it's not going back to the way it was in 1950. And if that's the case, then travel is not going back to the way it was. This is the worst technology will ever be in our lifetime. It's only going to improve. So the world is going to continue to get more flexible. People are going to continue to have more options. And we're going to start to live in a world where all you have to believe is people don't go back to the office 5 days a week and that some business travel is curbed. If you believe those two things, then travel is never going to come back the way it was. It's going to be different. Now, I do think there's going to be a new golden age of travel. It's just going to be really different.
Leisure and business travel. How so? How do you think it's going to be different?
Well, leisure travel, I think you're going to see like a shift from people traveling just to big popular tourist hotspots. Like here in New York City, a lot of people go to Times Square. In San Francisco, they go to Fisherman's Wharf. Going forward, I think you're going to see a lot more people traveling to a lot more places. They'll still go to cities, but they're also going to go to small towns. They're going to go to national parks. They're going to spread out. People are going to go not just in Paris, but they're going to go to the south of France, the central of France. Number two, stays are going to be longer. Not everyone has to get back to the office. If bosses and employers become more flexible, people have more time to travel. 3-day weekends can happen every weekend for a lot of people if they just have a desk job at a computer. Many people are going to go away for summers. They're going to have longer trips. You know, we're starting to see half of our business is longer than a week as far as stays. A fifth of our business are for stays that are a month or longer. That's not even travel. So what's going to happen is traveling, living, and blurring, traveling, living, and working are to blur together. That is going to fundamentally change the entire identity of travel.
You've told Airbnb employees they can work from home until September of next year. You've got other huge tech companies looking at January 2022. Are other companies getting this wrong? Are they getting wrong how bad COVID is going to be?
You know, I think that ultimately the employees, not the employers, will probably dictate the work policies down the road because every one of us, all the CEOs want to hire the very best talent to be competitive. And I think after compensation, flexible work policies will probably be the number one benefit for employees. So I don't think we're going to all live in a world that's 100% remote, but I don't think we're going to live in a world where most people have to come back to the office most of the time. And the younger the company, the more they're likely to embrace a hybrid or even more remote model. So I think the trend is going to be more flexible. As we can do more things over technology, the physical environment becomes more flexible.
Interesting. Now, there are big concerns about women backsliding in the pandemic, losing the gains they've made at home and work. More than 55% of Airbnb hosts are women. Do you expect that to continue to go up?
I think it will probably continue or go up. I mean, one of the most amazing stats about Airbnb is this next one. Since we started Airbnb, women on the platform have earned $70 billion. I think this is an incredible opportunity for women on Airbnb. And the number 1 and 2 professions on Airbnb for hosts are school teachers and healthcare workers. So this is, I think, an incredible leveling the playing field because there is no inherent advantage. Everyone has an equal opportunity.
Now, party houses became a problem during COVID, and Airbnb put a ban on parties at all of its listings. You're now working to share information with VRBO about repeat party house offenders to try to clamp down. Is the ban working, and how long do you expect this to continue? I mean, do you think you'll keep this ban in place for the long term?
Well, we'll certainly keep this ban in place for the time being because we don't want to be a disturbance to communities. We want to strengthen the communities we're in. The ban is absolutely working. We have significantly fewer incidents and reports than we did a year or two ago. So we're going to continue to develop new tools. We also, in addition to having a ban, we have really good technology tools to detect through a variety of heuristics whether or not somebody's throwing a party. So we're continually improving our ranking algorithms to, our algorithms to detect high-risk reservations.
Meantime, Airbnb recently announced it will allow sexual assault survivors to sue the company rather than go into mandatory arbitration. These are incidences involving Airbnbs in particular. You've called on other companies to do the same here. Uber and Lyft share information about dangerous drivers. Would Airbnb be willing to share information about dangerous listings with VRBO and Expedia?
Well, I mean, absolutely. We're already doing a party bans, and we could, of course, go further. I think the most important principle is keep people in our community safe and prioritize the rights of survivors. And so anything we can do to be able to help people feel like Airbnb is a safe community, it's safe for Airbnb to be in your community, is something that we will prioritize.
Now, you were really bullish on experiences pre-COVID and then virtual experiences during COVID. How has that business evolved? Do you still see that being Airbnb's potential next big thing? How will it stack up to homes ultimately?
Hard to know how it'll stack up the homes. I'm incredibly bullish. I mean, we had to take a pause in experiences because people couldn't gather. But increasingly, a lot of physical activities people were doing are not like making it through the pandemic. And I think increasingly people are realizing they can only stay home so many nights and watch Netflix. They eventually have to get out of the house and do things to other people. And I think we're going to be a nice alternative to going to a restaurant or Netflix. Occasionally, whether you're traveling or in your own city, you can do a really interesting activity with a local expert. So I'm very bullish on this opportunity in the next few years.
Airbnb was diversifying in so many other ways before the pandemic, also content, flights, business travel. As the homes business has resurged, you're going through this travel recovery / revolution. Have you talked about reigniting any of those earlier ambitions, or are you looking at other potential mini moonshots that are completely different?
One of the great things about one of the opportunities you have in a crisis is you can really really get much more focused. And in this crisis, this past year, we got really focused, got back to our roots of really connecting guests and hosts and providing connection. And so we've gotten really focused on our core business. We're still focused a lot on experiences. We don't have near-term plans to restart any of the other opportunities like flights or content that we paused. Never say never in the future, but we are really focused on providing accommodations and providing great experiences for people.
What about new other potential lines of business? I mean, I know you're always experimenting.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I am only 40 years old. I plan to be doing this for a long time. I don't want to feel like our biggest innovations are behind us. I think the best innovations at Airbnb are absolutely in front of us. I'm really excited about some things we're working on that I think will come out in the next couple of years. So absolutely, there will be definitely some big new innovations from us.
Well, speaking of, innovative approaches, Airbnb is offering free temporary housing to 20,000 Afghan refugees. I know that you are paying for part of this personally. You've had a lot of hosts step up. Give us a status update on those efforts.
Yeah, so we've had an overwhelming response to this effort. We've committed to house 20,000 Afghan refugees for free. And we've had a number of other people step in, want to provide housing. So we've got thousands of hosts providing housing. We've housed about 700 people so far, but I anticipate we'll be able to certainly house the 20,000 we made a commitment to house. I would love for us to house even more. And so we can house about as many people as people are willing to host. So if anyone's watching and they want to house an Afghan refugee, you can go to airbnb.org and put up your place. It only takes 10 or 20 minutes to list. And the one thing I want everyone to know if they're thinking of housing a refugee is, number one, They can offer to house them for free, but if they want, we'll pay for the stay. Number two, we work with resettlement agencies like the International Rescue Committee and the World Church Service. These are professional agencies that will do the screening of the refugees to make sure that you are ready to take them in. So that's what they do. We will match you. And I think this is just one of the biggest humanitarian crises of our lifetime. So hopefully everyone can help us step up.
And do you think you'll get to 20,000? I mean, how much demand have you seen?
We've seen quite a bit of demand, but a lot of, there's a whole process. A number of refugees are still in military bases. So I'm very optimistic that we'll be able to not only meet our commitment, but I certainly hope that if there are more refugees that need more housing, we would like to step up. And as the developments are showing, there are probably going to be a lot more than 20,000 refugees.